Hey guys, this is Nicole Van Tassel with I Explore Science and creator of the I Explore Academy, which is our professional development program for teachers who are transitioning to the NGSS. So this actually was a resource that I created for our members who are teaching online right now. And one of the things that I've been really emphasizing to those people in our program is using storylines that are built on phenomena. So discovery and exploration are a huge part of NGSS classrooms, but storylines built on phenomena is really where you get that NGSS feel of your units. And it's where you get students engaged in these long-term investigations and you get that authentic connection. So a lot of our teachers are currently teaching online, and it would be easy to lose that storyline feel of your units because of just the disconnectedness of that. So some of them are teaching online and it's like all optional. Some are mandated, they have to be teaching online. But it's hard when you don't necessarily have like a class time that's meeting every day or every other day, depending on whatever schedule you were on. So it can be hard to keep that continuity feel. Like these are not isolated activities. These are long-term investigations. Because in the normal classroom, you might spend a couple minutes talking about how things connect. You might spend a couple minutes reviewing previous learning. But if you are not actually having those like virtual class meetings, that might not be happening. So what I created was a document that students could use, and this could be a collaborative document even, that all students are working on the same part, and maybe you ask them to use different fonts or different or even just sign their name. I don't know, however you do it. But this could be a collaborative document, or it could be something that each individual student completes as they complete the tasks you've assigned them. So the goal is that you're going to be still tying your learning to a phenomenon. And it might not look this in an NGSS classroom. We have our anchor phenomenon, and we come back to it over the course of maybe 3 weeks, sometimes even 6 weeks. With this setting, it might be a week to week. You're doing these mini storylines or small learning sequences, small sustained investigations. So you're still having several tasks that tie to a specific phenomenon, but it's not quite as long because honestly, everything is changing so quickly. We don't know what's happening week to week right now. So you still want to introduce that phenomenon and ask students to document their observations. And I always like to give them these guiding questions like, what sticks out? What do you notice? What patterns do you see? That's a cross-cutting concept. What connections can you make? What questions do you have? What do you wonder about? And maybe if you might find you might want to ask additional questions. Like, let's say you have a phenomenon that works really well with this idea of like structure and function. Maybe you ask about, what do you notice about the structure? What do you think these parts are supposed to do? Or, guide their thinking in that way and through that lens of the cross-cutting concept. Alternatively, maybe it's like a cause and effect kind of thing. And you might ask, what do you think the cause could be? Or what effects do you think this is going to have? And maybe they're making predictions. No matter which cross-cutting concept lens you want to look through really depends on the phenomenon you've chosen. But in general, patterns is one that often works with many phenomena. So I threw that in there. Okay, but then you would have your learning tasks. And this is something that maybe you even complete before you send this out. So students know I'm doing this task and that task and that task. And it's like a visual way of keeping them on track. After they go through the task, this is when they come back to here. They come back and they summarize like what they figured out. So this is a really good formative assessment. It lets you know, did they come to the right conclusions? What did they come away from that activity learning or knowing? But sometimes even what did you figure out can be kind of generic, because sometimes students can pull ideas from the activity itself. And the next step is where you are getting the continuity, and you are also getting a really clear picture of what your students understand. So how does this connect to the phenomenon you've described above? So now students have to apply what they learned to explaining whatever this initial phenomenon was. And honestly, if students can't do this, or if you can't do this, then it means the phenomenon you've chosen does not match your learning tasks. And you might find that happens, and that's okay. I mean, it's not ideal, but we're all just learning, so that's probably going to happen at some point or another. I know I've been like designing activities, and then I take a look, an hour later, I've created this activity, and then I'm like, shoot, I went way off track. I'm not anywhere near my objectives. I lost my phenomenon. Like, it's just not, it was a fun activity, but it didn't get me where I wanted to go. So that's kind of a good reflection for you there. But here's where you're making that transfer. And then it's always important that students, and this is where you get those storylines are driven forward. That after you've figured something out, you come back and you think, what questions do we have left? And what new questions do we have? And you're not necessarily going to address every single new question or even every single original question. But it's important that our students are thinking in that way. Like, we figured something out, but now there's more. Because so often when we are teaching, and this, I've seen this, I mean, in my own classroom when I was using like the scientific method, it was like the scientific method, you finished all the steps and then you were done. And I remember in college when I learned that when you're writing real scientific papers, you're actually supposed to have this section that talks about like further learning, like what we didn't figure out or what research might come next. And it's important that our students see that it's not just like done, 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 we figured this out, we're done. We want students to understand it's a continual investigation. So even if you don't ever address these questions, because some of them might not be relevant, and that's okay, it's important that students start thinking like that. And the more they take time to generate questions, the more they're going to activate that natural curiosity. So anyway, this is just a resource that I had, or that I created, and I'm going to share with you again if you're on my email list. So get on that, whitelist my email by adding my name and email address to your contact list so it doesn't end up in spam. And if it hasn't in the past, I'm telling you, my email system is having major problems. So a huge chunk of my emails are going to spam, and it's driving me crazy. But I want you to be able to get this organizer, so please do that. And basically, it's just a way to provide some continuity for your students so that they have all in one place. And typically this might happen like in a student notebook in your classroom, this series of thinking and this documenting. But this is, if you're teaching remotely or teaching digitally, this could even be printed out and turned, students record in paper and pencil. But it's just providing some continuity, so you're still getting that feel of extended investigations, and you're still getting that feel of like a storyline, even when we're, not meeting with our class regularly, or we are much more like disjointed in how we are connecting with our students. Okay, so if you have questions, please post them below. If you have questions about storylines, if you have questions about the organizer, if you have questions about using phenomena, anything that might be relevant, just reach out, okay? Thanks so much for connecting. If you are interested in iExplore Academy, we are open enrollment right now. So, if you're home, and I know I'm keeping busy with my 3 small children here, but if you have some time to invest in professional development, whether you are planning for next year or like thinking forward already for revising your curriculum and instruction for next year, or if you're trying to integrate these 3 dimensions in your like remote classrooms right now, it's a good time to spend some time doing that. So definitely check that out. And as always, we definitely recommend you ask your district to fund your program because it's professional development. So I honestly think they should be. And if you have questions about that, let me know. All right, I will catch you guys later. Have a good one.